If all you want is the TLDR version of this, I signed a super short-term lease on an old empty department store in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. The reason for that is to facilitate the delivery of over 100,000 physical media items, which turned out to be more than I bargained for, but the whole thing was also wrapped up within the span of about 24 hours. So it's all good. And if you want more, here we go. In December, I was approached by someone who asked me if I wanted to buy the entire inventory of their online store. I had just opened my own retail store selling music and movies, and he was getting out of that side of things and wanted to see if I wanted some more inventory. And I kind of thought to myself, that sounds like a very good deal. However, I am less than 1 month in on opening my own store, and I don't know what I'm doing, nor do I have space, nor do I really know how to facilitate that sort of thing. So I said no. A month and a half later, he came back and said, I'll give you a better price. What about now? Me being a month and a half later into this whole process, I said, yeah, let's do it. So my first step was to figure out how to receive a semi-truck of palletized boxes full of media. He thought he had upwards of about 150,000 items. My hunch, probably less than that. And I don't have a loading dock like conveniently attached to my store. So I can't really just take a truck right to my shop. So what do I do in this situation? Idea number one. At the time, I had storage units that were at a facility that did have a loading dock. I got them there because there's a loading dock. That helped me take trucks in the past. I have done large bulk buys in the past. That's not something like super new to me. But the part that is super new to me is taking this much. Also, at the time that I agreed to this whole deal, my storage was plumb full from a purchase that I made in December. So there was essentially 24 pallets sitting there already and no room. So idea number two, I can't bring a truck to my shop because I have no way of getting pallets from the truck into my store directly. I just have a standard size door. But where might there be a loading dock? Is there one at the mall? If there is one at the mall, where? Hey, there is one at the mall. It's at Yonkers. Yonkers is the department store, the anchor store that has been sitting empty for the better part of a decade. Kind of used for various things. This last weekend, there was a large flea market in it. So I know it's used for stuff, but can I use it for stuff? Turns out I can. So I signed a temporary lease granting me use of the mall for 10 days. April 1st to April 10th. That should give me enough time, I thought, to facilitate the delivery, unload the truck, stage things, get them from the department store to my shop, and then from in my shop to the back room of my shop. That was the thought. April 1st came around. I got to the shop about 7:30 in the morning, and I got a call on the phone from Mr. Ali about 8:15. He said, hey man, I'm 30 minutes away. I said, Ali, I love it. Do you know where to go? Ali said, I have no idea where to go. I said, Ali, you're looking for the Firestone. I'm going to send you directions, but you're looking for the Firestone. Across from the Firestone, there's a shopping mall. And look for the sign that says Holly's. Holly's is close to a loading dock. I will walk out from that loading dock, and I will help guide you in. Sure enough, Mr. Ali showed up. And he said, hey, man, where do I go? I said, Ali, that's where we go. Pointed at the loading dock, walked back to there. He starts backing up, and we have our first problem. My plan for all this was 4 parts. Part 1, unload the truck. Part 2, stage the pallets in the department store so I can get them closer to my store. Part 1 is very much centered around backing the truck up and unloading it, though, which can only be done if the truck has a dock that is the right height. And I had not accounted for this being a little tiny dwarf dock. Oh boy. Now, is this my fault? Yes. It's 100% my fault. I never once thought to look outside to see how tall the dock was. Or ask a question like, hey, is this loading dock a standard height? Didn't do that. I take full responsibility for that. That was my mistake. However, we still had to get 24 pallets off of the truck. I called the manager, who said, I didn't know about that. Why don't I have one of the maintenance guys pop over and see what can be done? So in the meantime, I started down stacking. I was like, I have nervous energy now and I need to do stuff. So I started taking boxes off the truck one at a time, putting them on a pallet on the dock. Maintenance guy shows up. He looks at things. He looks at the dock. He looks at the truck. He goes, that ain't going to work, is it? I said, no, sir, that will not work. But I knew something. I knew that if I could only get pallets off the truck, I could figure the rest out. And I also knew that if I had a forklift, I could get the pallets off the truck. And I knew that there's a store at the mall that has a forklift. The next part of the story has two very big, oh my God, people saved my life. I did not see this coming, and they didn't have to do it, and they saved my life, and I'm very grateful moments. Moment number one, there is a store at the mall called DeBin Store. DeBin Store has a forklift. DeBin Store let me borrow their forklift. They said, this thing hemorrhages hydraulic fluid, so just know that that's a thing. Have you ever driven a forklift? I said, yep, I sure have. It has been over a decade though, which is technically true. I worked in the lumber yard of a Menards in 2005 riding a forklift. And by anyone's math, 2005 is over a decade ago. So that I did not lie. I was telling the truth. I could have been more truthful, but I was in a pinch. They said, here you go, bud. Locked in the propane tank, sent me on my way. I asked security, do you want me roaming around the parking lot of the mall just willy-nilly? They said, let me check. Oh, we checked. Go for it, bud. So I took off. I drove the forklift all the way around the entire mall to get to the loading dock where Mr. Ali was still waiting for me. Bless you, Mr. Ali. And then here is gratitude moment number two. The second huge boost was my buddy Sean, who showed up and helped out. He and the pallet jack got in the truck and Mr. Ali pulled away from the dock. We only have one pallet jack. Now we also have a forklift, but we do not have a second pallet jack. This is why that's important. Sean was in the truck moving pallets from deep in the truck to the very end so that I could get them off with the forklift. I could not then bring them directly over to the dock because there's no one else and no pallet jack to move them out of the mouth of the dock. You know what I mean? So we were getting them from the truck, setting them down in as fast a manner as we could so we could send Mr. Ali on his way. Thank you, Mr. Ali, for being so patient. And then loaded that dock up to the gills. From there, I hugged Sean and confessed my love for him before he went back to editing videos for the day and all that kind of stuff. Then I drove the forklift back to DeBin Store and also hugged Jackie, the manager. I was kind of a nervous wreck by that point, and apparently hugging is my way of saying thank you when I'm in such a state. At that point, my moms came over and we collectively assessed the situation. Step one, truck back up. Check. Step two, unload truck. Check, kind of. So what's next? Staging those pallets in the department store. Now, this is a very old department store, and there's this sort of loft area adjacent to the loading dock. And also keeping in mind that standard door height is not like 10 feet tall. So I had to downstack these pallets to get them through the door. And that meant that 24 pallets turned into about 31 pallets. I then wheeled each of those suckers out to the main door of the department store, setting them up where I would then move them from there to the shop. The reason I didn't move it all in one swoop, I could not move pallets from the department store to my shop during mall hours. Didn't want to get in the way of, customers and stuff like that, or make a ton of noise. So that's what I did. And it looked like this. There they were, and I had to wait until the mall was closed before I could get them the rest of the way over. At about 7:10, once things were fairly clear, I opened my doors and began to move. I expected maybe to get about half of them in there, but it turned out that the shelves that hold the CDs and DVDs in the store are just wide enough where a pallet can squeeze in there between them. So I ended up getting every single one of those pallets in there last night. And I turned the department store into this, and I turned my shop into this. That is where I left things for the night, which brings us to the morning when Sean popped back over and we hunkered down. As is the case with most things, I didn't really have a plan of what to do with the boxes other than to bring them to the back room. What I had was more of a
concepts of a plan.
And that concept was to stack the boxes as high as we can, getting the little tiny boxes and all the odd-shaped boxes into one of the aisles, and stacking the rest in as orderly a fashion as possible to utilize the space as best we can. So we let it rip. Now, Sean, he's the man. And for those unaware, he's part of the crew that makes up the Confused Breakfast podcast this week. The episode was about the movie Clueless, which I watched last week in the store and is one of the featured items up in the Confused Breakfast Nook, which is in the shop, but I digress. Back to the boxes. I think it took us about three and a half hours, but we knocked it out. And I once again professed my love for Sean, and he blushed, and it was a nice moment, but then he left. And I swept up and I rearranged the store, and the big thing is it's back and ready to go. So if you've made it this far, I ask you this. What do you think about all this? Was this just plain crazy or crazy like a fox? And besides that, I am all ready to go, and I will see you Friday at the shop, Razzle Dazzle Music and Movies, located in Lindale Mall in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.